going on, Jeromes? It's a beautiful Wednesday. Birds are chirping and stuff, and it's time for another short but sweet Vikings Q&A. So every week we'll put out a call for questions on the community tab. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions. Let's dive on in. Our free thoughts on possibly taking a wide receiver in the second or possibly moving back into the third. Should be a ton of talent still, and Kirko needs a tall receiver. So this is a pretty deepish wide receiver class, but I've specifically fallen in love with the short, speedy, seam buster type receiver. So you got Jacob Cowing, Arizona, formerly UTEP, bit of a Deshaun Jackson type. Lots of comparisons between him and D-Jax. Taj Washington, former teammates of Jordan Addison at USC. Small but super speedy, and I feel like Aldrick Robinson was a lot of fun. I don't know why they didn't bring Aldrick Robinson back, but in terms of JJ and Addison, like, they're going to do their own thing, and yeah, having a tall receiver certainly could help. They did sign N'Keal Harry to a futures contract, I believe, but also Malik Washington, Virginia, another short, twitchy type receiver. So I mean, there will be ample opportunities. Plus, the Vikings have 2 4s, 2 5ths, 2 6, and a 7th. So I think one of those picks certainly could be on a wide receiver. Next up, number 2, ENF. What's your opinion on the competitive rebuild so far? And is this the offseason, the fork in the road? Keep Kirk and try to be competitive, or draft a quarterback of the future and rebuild? I think this season is the Rubicon, because I respect what Kwesi and Kevin Connell have done. And we've always said that it's better to get rid of a player a year too early versus a year too late. They parted ways with Kendricks, they parted ways with Dalvin, parted ways with Diesel Dalvin, parted ways with Patrick Peterson, and the lot, Adam Thielen, obviously. But yeah, you saw Thielen had a good season. You saw that Kendricks had a good season, and it's really no muss, no fuss. But it's been really about clearing up a lot of those backlog Spielman contracts. And this offseason, it looks like Daniil is going to leave. It looks like Harrison is either going to take a pay cut or cut and maybe retire. And it could be that Kirk Cousins signs with the Falcons. So that would really be turning the page. And generally it takes 2 to 3 off seasons to really get in your guys. And now it's on Kwesi. And now, the training wheels are off, and you have to find your quarterback of the future. And now we will see what this team is made of, because respect to the Wolves, like they are patient. Wolves are patient. Wolves are kind. But now it's time to see what Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi are made of. First season was great. Second season derailed by injuries. Now third season, you could have your own quarterback, and let's see what happens. But overall, feeling pretty good about the whole process. Carter staff, nah. If Vikings want to get a top 5 defense next year, what do you think they would have to do? They got to build in the trenches. And I love that Flores is going to be taking a more, or basically he's just going to be overseeing the defensive side of the draft. And the Vikings, they need size inside, whether it's free agency, whether it's a draft. Christian Wilkins would be a huge first step in that direction. Great against the run, quick penetration and in the pass rush, as well as Daniil is probably going to leave. So they have to either get Patrick Jones second and Andre Carter the second, good to go, or in the draft, do you maneuver a little bit, and do you get Chop Robinson, top of the second round, back end of the first round, potentially? You got to be able to have that pipeline where Flores blitzing is great, but being able to consistently get pressure with 4, which was an issue for them last season, that makes things a lot easier on the back end when you're able to drop 7, 8 guys at a time. So that's what it comes down to. I feel like stopping the run, yes, but also just being able to get dudes who can win their one-on-ones up front, or at least own a gap. That's going to be really key for the Vikings. Also, Ivan Pace Jr. switching to number 0. That's all. Number 4, Ant-Man, thoughts on Bo Nix? So I understand that a lot of people like Bo Nix. Bo Nix in our comment section, I feel like Bo Nix has his own army. And he's a plucky, tough kid. Didn't work out at Auburn. Has done great things over the last 2 years in Oregon. You do question the offense, because the stats that Nix put up versus the stats that McCarthy put up, they're not the same. They're absolutely not the same. And with Nix, he said it himself. His number one concern is arm strength. And in the NFL, you have to be able to make vertical throws consistently. I don't know if he has the arm to do that. And beyond that, I question if he has since he played in such a don't want to say simplistic, but a very collegiate style offense where the ball gets out quick and there's some RPO looks in there. It's a lot of bubble screens. It's a lot of slants. It's a lot of flats. It's a lot of dump offs. Does he have the experience to throw receivers open? Does he have the experience to fit the ball into tight windows? Also, beyond experience, does he have the velocity? Does he have the arm? Because beyond, hey, he can't throw 80 yards like Joe Milton. Who cares? No one really can. But can he hit a very tiny window on third down on a slant in between the corner and the linebacker or safety? Can he do that? That's the main question here. And I don't know if he can, but I do like him overall. I think that he could have like a 10-year career as a high-end backup. I love his competitiveness. Seems to have a very high football IQ as well. I think that he's a little bit feisty. I could see him as a Jake Browning, Mike White, maybe poor man's Gardner Minshew type quarterback in the NFL, where he's a guy that bounces around to 3, 4, 5 teams, is always a solid backup, is good in the QB room, as a guy that you don't mind as your veteran backup quarterback. But hype of him as being a first-round pick, I just don't see it. And again, it's not to poo-poo on the kid. It's just calling a spade a spade. But I would love if it becomes the next freaking Tom Brady. And then I just have to eat this. It's like, I have concerns if Justin Jefferson can get off of press coverage in the NFL. I wonder if he can play outside. Yeah, took an L on that one, but it's okay. Lastly, George M. Hey, Andy, I love the show. Thank you. Who could have a draft day fall one of the top 3 quarterbacks or whoever? Well, in terms of like fall, I mean, maybe May falls to like 5 or something like that. Or, I mean, at this point, it would be an upset if McCarthy gets out of the top 10. But Penix, possibly. And it's not so much that he's a bad prospect. I think that some teams may just answer the quarterback question in free agency or at the top of the draft with one of the big 4 quarterbacks. Or some teams may prefer Nix or Spencer Rattler or Pratt. And then Penix could take a fall. And it's not necessarily because of his play or his medicals per se, because he reportedly checked out fine at the combine. Plus, he dropped some piss missiles, man, at the combine, and he looks good. But it could just be a game of musical chairs where a team checks their box in terms of young quarterback, whether free agency or the draft, and then they address other needs, and then it just cycles through. And that's what can happen sometimes with quarterbacks. But again, all it takes is one. But I could see Penix, where, I mean, even though medicals are cleared, maybe some teams are still really sketched out, because even though he stayed healthy over the last 2 years of Washington and Indiana, that was a disaster. The 2 knees and the shoulder. So who knows? Also, I could see a guy like Penn State's Adisa Isa, 247, ran a 4.7, 440. I mean, he was fantastic getting pressure on the quarterback, but I don't know, like he's certainly less heralded than Chop Robinson, except he just didn't check out as much at the combine. I think that could be the tiebreaker there. Also, Braylon Trice, real names, no gimmicks, of Washington, where he was a stud, powerful edge rusher for the Huskies, but he only clocked in at 4.7, 240, which at 245 pounds, that's just not going to cut it. So he's kind of a tweener in that regard, sort of like James Lynch when he was coming out of Baylor, where he wasn't large enough to play defensive interior consistently. Also, he wasn't quick or lengthy enough to be a consistent edge rusher, even though he had a fantastic college career at Baylor. So that could be where Trice could be at. But that's it. That's 5 good Vikings questions on this beautiful Wednesday. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol, production value.